So I still haven't gotten to my little 2-part agenda, but that's so good. The one piece of the agenda or my parts wanted to talk about with you here, which is what drew me to work with you. I guess it was 3 years ago. It must have been 3 years ago or 4.
I think maybe 4.
I went to a workshop that you led here. Oh, do you want to talk about why you're laughing?
God.
You don't have to. I'm going to say what I saw in you that
Nicely done.
spoke. Okay.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
We were having the workshop, but what I saw was you were talking about a client, and I could read between the lines, or a part of me could read between the lines, and here you were talking about a client that other people would maybe say had some type of delusions, hallucinations, like some extreme parts that other therapists, clinicians would talk about in very clinical terms with, just talking about, as an extreme client or something.
Diagnostic categories, maybe.
Yeah, or just even in a night, in a subtle way, just putting them into this box. There was nothing like that. And what I heard, David, was so, and you were processing it kind of like in the moment. You were like, this client, and I'm just going to like try to manufacture how I saw you processing it. I'm not even going to characterize it. You were just saying, wow, this client they're just on the precipice of something so immense. And I'm trying to get closer to them to see it. It's almost like your client was seeing through this tiny prism, and you were just trying to get as close to them as you could, getting all that, no judgment, no judgment in sight. Just they are seeing something so beyond what other people see that I want to see it with them. I want to be there with them so I can see what they see. And you just kept, man, they are seeing something. They are right on seeing something in this that is just so vast and so big. And it was like, yes, everything in my cell structure in my body was just like, yes, that is what I want. I want to see my clients that way. I want to see the world that way. I want to be seen that way.
Amen.
I already knew I aspired to that without judgment, without, any hint of anything, and just to be with. I knew I had aspired to it, and I knew somewhere in my body, I knew that's what I was looking for more of. I was in between therapists. I had one therapist that was great, but that relationship ended, and I was just waiting for the right person. And what was amazing was I knew that you were the person. I knew from that workshop. I was like, and it wasn't until some years later that like I had that experience with you, and I had my therapist at that time. And then when when it came back around, I was like, this is the guy. This is the guy. And because that's what I want. So back in my, let me pause there and just check in with you. How is that feeling with you? What's coming up as you hear me say that?
When we love deeply what we love, or, can't help but see or know the world from the way we see and know it. I know for myself, while on the one hand, I can't not see the world that way, there's also enormous vulnerability and shame, or, so when someone, when you were sharing how it landed with you, it's like a balm on the parts of me that carry fear about living from that place.
Wow.
So that felt really dear and sweet. And also I was thinking that just your seeing what I'm up to and recognizing it tells me about the place in you that already knows that and recognizes it and goes, confirmation, good.
And then laser focus.
Right.
That's where we're going.
Yeah.
There's something in me that if I can recognize something in myself, it is the laser focus. Like once I'm like, that's where the life is. That's where source is.
Right.
Somehow something in me knows where that is.
Right.
And that knowledge was always there, and I believe that knowledge is in everyone. Right. I mean, there's something that's self-led, like that we all have that higher self, that bigger divine energy, and when we recognize that spark is inside us. There's a knowing, but there are parts that cover that up, and that we don't feel it, or we become inured to it, or blind to it, or something. But for me, my brain tumor experience is what cracked me open to. There is only one thing. I'm going to die. I know, wow, my death is right here. It's right. I can't get away from it. And there is only one thing, and it is where the being close to that source of alive and aliveness. That's just all there is. So now there's no protecting that. When I see it, the parts that would cover it up can't, and I'm just. And then my system has learned to just choose to follow that flow towards that, move towards what brings that aliveness. Yeah. There was something coming up in the relational field. It was a resonance with the parts of you that feel affirmed by my seeing you and seeing like what you're up to, and the parts of you that are frightened of that and feel vulnerable for how you show up. Not frightened of me seeing you, frightened of when your parts are engaging in the world in that way by seeing the world as you do. There are parts of you that are frightened of that might be frightened that that's going to be maybe judged, or that might be dangerous. Or what is the fear?
Well, I'm actually reminded of yesterday when you and I met. Was it yesterday?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
And we sort of connected really nicely, and I was feeling like thin and vulnerable, and at one point you got really enthusiastic and said, let's feel the vibe of this room. And in that moment, like, do you remember that? Like, you had your hand around my shoulder.
Oh, yeah. We were like, yeah, feel it. I was like, yeah, just.
And when you did that, I started to contract.
Oh.
And it evoked this part of me. Oh. And then I worked on all day yesterday. No worries.
Yeah, no.
That has this freeze response. And it's kind of like, it was the need for from my mother to not disappoint her by being okay or something, and something resisting and being utterly paralyzed. And there's something around this seeing and knowing, and then having this like just terror that I will be banished. I will be, like, if I show up as I am, my mom will dissociate. And my mom's lovely and a great person. She's a Holocaust survivor, whatever. But then I feel this free. So a version of what you were saying about the fear that surrounds our greatest truth. It's like when we showed up as, oh, little David, and then something happens in the field, and it's like, ugh, I can feel it now. It's just like contract and feel sick. So that's one way in which, even though I share great kinship with you and respect for you and trust you.
Yeah.
When you got really enthusiastic, there was some part of me that just like disappeared, and just, I was dealing with that sort of shame all day yesterday. Really productive, but fuck you. I mean, thank you. I mean, that's what I mean.
Wow. Yeah. This feels so good because, I did have that initial part. That it didn't feel bad. It was just like it was so. Hearing that, I was just resonating, like such empathetic resonance with what feels like when someone is so big, and then you like the contraction, and I just know that space, and I know that part of me, so I just felt so deeply empathetic, and at the same time, like my part's like, oh, I caused that, but so it was that flash of,
you're such a jerk,
flash of remorse, and maybe that touches that old wound of I'm too much, and right, but there's such healing to just be here with it, right? Like I'm like, because there's no denying, yeah, there was a moment of, maybe, I don't know if I was too, whatever it was, there was a moment of my bigness and your freeze, and it having an impact and you working on it. and here we are, and there's no disconnection.
Yeah. Although it's funny, as we're talking about it, because I've worked on this part forever, it's evoking memories of, I have a lot of really big friends. They're so big. And I just am having memories of times with each of them when I contracted away from them because I was overwhelmed and triggered their fear that I was another one of those people for whom they were going to be too much.
Right.
And then having to sort of, take care of myself, like, reassure them it wasn't their fault or about them, that I love them, that I need them in my life.
Right.
And there are parts of me that are still carry wounds that make certain kinds of presence just like I'm a little vampire all of a sudden and the sunlight's going to burn me or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's all popping in.
That's great. I mean, I feel one word that's coming up as I'm looking at you, and I want to also name, I have a part that's also holding mindfulness of the audience, and of you guys out there, and I'm not forgetting you, and just want to take a moment to kind of like recheck in with you, to just like remind you that I'm aware you're here and you're watching this. Even though I have a part that is convinced nobody's going to watch this, which is a protector. But I'm aware of you here. And the word that was coming up, David, as you were speaking, was in my feeling tone of what I'm feeling right now is safety. That this feels so immensely safe that we can talk about that part through interaction, and I know now I can speak to you about the sadness that is coming up around, like, that part of me, because I can feel into that moment where I looked at that. We were in the dining room, we were connecting a little bit, and I just started feeling the vibe and the energy of the room, and I can feel it. I could feel it all around, and it was like it's like a small piece of heaven where I could just feel like the floating, and I put my arm around you, and I was just like, can you feel the energy? Can you just feel it? And I was like dancing, and it's like you can touch it. You can touch the sweetness and the aliveness, and you can dance in it and float in it and fly in it, and my part was there, and
I could feel the excitement of that part too.
And then I can't meet you there in that moment.
For me, I couldn't.
Yes.
Yeah, because in that moment, I was still, even though I'd worked with some parts, but with your enthusiasm, it awakened like just walking onto a dance floor and not being quite ready to dance yet.
Right, yeah.
So, or like having parts that were still, I've got to give a talk and blah, 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 all that stuff.
Right.
So,
But when I can speak for in the moment now, hearing that, and I can tap into that part of me that was so excited in that flow space, that can feel a little sad in this moment and say, there's wounding around in my history of not being met in my most lovely place, in powerful, open places, and then being seen maybe as too much or bad or wrong, and or maybe just being, that's not even really what's coming up right now. I think it was just more of a sadness, just like a little kind of a sadness.
So what's happening now, it feels like the moment is reweaving itself.
Yeah.
I can feel, because I did a lot of work on that part yesterday, he's kind of like over here now, and he's not like feeling like he has to do anything, but there's some other energy here that's like, all right, I now want and wish I could have, or want to, like, sort of draft your energy.
Yeah.
Like, sort of see how my body or whatever sort of like, okay, I may not attract the energy the same way, but my body wants
in your
to
way,
move,
right?
So I can feel that happening now, like how it might have wanted to happen in that
moment.
That frozen guy is kind of thawed out. He's hanging in the air. He's actually, I'm feeling a little tenderness in my heart towards him, and so
Wow, that's really beautiful.
Yeah, that was a lot of healing.
Yeah,
in that little moment there.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I just noticed the field here in this room, like just the space here. It's kind of like a little, I don't know, soft and energized or something.
I feel like a light, there's like a white, it just feels like a little glow around. It's very soft, just a soft white kind of glow around.
So you see it visually.
Yeah. It's not. It's almost. I almost see the energy of it. So I can't quite. It's not like I see an aura like a color, but it's just like Yeah, it's right here. I can
Yeah.
see it. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just
For me,
feel
it's like a felt texture. Like I had a little
yeah.
vibration or hum.
Yeah.
It's pleasant, actually. I
Yeah.
feel like it's holding us as much
Yes.
as we're it's somehow emanating or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.